My name is Jack Morrison, and I've always prided myself on knowing my wife Alice inside out. We've been together for a decade now, navigating life's ups and downs with a sense of unwavering trust and commitment. Little did I know, our stability would soon be tested in ways I never imagined. It all started with a summer vacation in Colorado, a getaway we hoped would rejuvenate us amidst the hustle of city life. We arrived in Breckenridge, greeted by majestic peaks and the crisp mountain air that promised adventure. Alice, typically indifferent to heights, surprised me by announcing her intention to join a local mountaineering club. "I've always wanted to challenge myself more," she explained with a glint in her eye as we unpacked in our cozy lodge room. "This seems like the perfect opportunity." I nodded, supportive yet slightly bemused. Alice had never shown such fervor for outdoor pursuits, but I admired her newfound enthusiasm. Over the next few days, she threw herself into training sessions with the club, soaking in every bit of knowledge the instructors imparted. It was during one of these sessions that she met Kevin Harper, a seasoned mountaineer and the club's charismatic instructor. I first noticed a change in Alice's demeanor after that encounter. She spoke animatedly about Kevin's expertise and their shared passion for scaling peaks. I brushed off any inklings of concern, chalking it up to her excitement over her new hobby. As the weeks went by, Alice's absences grew more frequent. She'd come home later than usual, her explanations vague and hurried. I tried to suppress the growing unease in my chest, reminding myself that every relationship goes through phases of adjustment. One evening, curiosity got the best of me. I decided to surprise Alice with dinner at a quaint little bistro in town, hoping to reconnect over candlelight and conversation. As I entered the restaurant, I froze at the sight before me. Alice and Kevin, seated intimately at a corner table, engrossed in animated discussion over glasses of wine. Shock coursed through me like an electric current. I stood rooted to the spot, unable to tear my eyes away from the scene unfolding before me. My mind raced, piecing together the dots I had refused to acknowledge until now. A sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach as the truth I had feared became painfully clear. I turned and left without a word, my heart heavy with betrayal. The drive back to our lodge felt endless, each mile stretching the silence between us into an insurmountable chasm. When I finally stepped into our room, Alice stood before me, her eyes wide with guilt and fear. "Jack, she began, her voice wavering. But I couldn't bear to hear her explanations, not now, when the foundation of our marriage lay shattered at my feet. Without a word, I retreated to the farthest corner of the room, my back turned to her. The weight of her betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating the love that had once bound us together. As I lay awake that night, staring into the darkness, I knew our lives had irreversibly changed. The certainty of our future was replaced by a yawning abyss of uncertainty and pain. How could I ever trust her again, when the woman I thought I knew had chosen to climb to new heights with someone else? This chapter sets the stage for the unfolding drama of Jack and Alice's relationship, highlighting the pivotal moment of discovery and the emotional turmoil that follows. The days that followed our fateful encounter at the bistro were marked by an unsettling tension between Alice and me. We navigated our interactions with strained politeness, avoiding the elephant in the room, the undeniable truth of her betrayal. Alice made half-hearted attempts to breach the wall of silence I had erected between us. She apologized profusely, her words tinged with remorse and regret, but each apology fell flat against the backdrop of my shattered trust. How could I forgive her when the wound was still raw and bleeding? I threw myself into work, seeking solace in the familiar rhythm of deadlines and meetings. It was the only way I could distract myself from the gnawing ache in my chest, the constant reminder of what we had lost. Meanwhile, Alice's absences became more frequent and opaque. She would often cite club meetings and training sessions that stretched into late hours, leaving me alone with my thoughts and suspicions. I wrestled with the urge to confront her again, to demand answers that I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. One evening, unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, I decided to follow her. I waited until she left for what she claimed was another club gathering, then discreetly trailed her car through the winding mountain roads. The sinking feeling in my gut grew heavier with each passing mile, until we arrived at a secluded cabin nestled in the shadow of a towering peak. I parked at a safe distance and watched from afar as Alice and Kevin emerged from the cabin, their laughter carrying faintly on the evening breeze. My worst fears confirmed, I felt a surge of anger and betrayal rise within me. How long had this been going on? How could she deceive me so effortlessly? I retreated before they noticed my presence, consumed by a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger, hurt, and disbelief warred within me, threatening to engulf the remnants of our shattered marriage. The drive back to our lodge was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. When I finally returned, Alice was waiting for me, her expression a mix of apprehension and guilt. She started to speak, but I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "Don't," I said, my voice strained. "I saw you." Her face paled, and she took a hesitant step forward. "Jack, please, let me explain." But I shook my head, my jaw clenched in anger and hurt. "There's nothing left to explain, Alice. You made your choice." With those words hanging heavily between us, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway, a silent witness to the crumbling ruins of our once happy life. That night, sleep eluded me as I grappled with the harsh reality of our situation. The woman I had loved and trusted had chosen another path, leaving me adrift in a sea of heartache and betrayal. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I made a silent vow to myself, to untangle myself from this web of deceit and rebuild my life, brick by painful brick. This chapter delves deeper into Jack's emotional turmoil and the escalating tension between him and Alice, culminating in his discovery of her infidelity. It sets the stage for the next phase of their unraveling relationship and Jack's quest for closure and healing. The days that followed our confrontation at the lodge were a blur of emotional turmoil and bitter realizations. Alice's attempts to reach out were met with stony silence on my part. I couldn't bring myself to engage with her, couldn't bear the sight of her tear-streaked face or the sound of her pleading apologies. Instead, I threw myself into work with renewed fervor, burying my pain beneath a facade of productivity and professionalism. But no matter how hard I tried to distract myself, thoughts of Alice and Kevin haunted me relentlessly. How could she have betrayed me so callously? Was our entire relationship a lie? One evening, unable to escape the suffocating weight of my thoughts, I found myself back at the lodge earlier than usual. I walked into our room to find Alice sitting on the edge of our bed, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying. "Jack, please," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's talk. I can explain everything." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed tightly over my chest. "Explain what, Alice? That you've been lying to me? That you've been sneaking around behind my back with Kevin?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, Jack. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt you." Anger surged through me like a wildfire, threatening to consume the last vestiges of my composure. "Then why did you do it, Alice? Why did you throw away everything we had?" Her shoulders slumped in defeat as she struggled to find words that could possibly assuage the pain she had caused. "I don't know," she admitted finally, her voice barely audible. "I was lost. Confused. Kevin was there for me when you weren't. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her words cut through me like a knife, reopening wounds I thought had begun to heal. "So that's it then?" I asked bitterly. "You turned to him because I wasn't enough?" Alice shook her head vehemently, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, Jack. It's not like that. You're more than enough. I don't know how it happened." Silence hung heavy in the air between us, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the mountain night outside our window. I felt exhausted, drained by the emotional roller coaster of the past weeks. Part of me wanted to believe her, to believe that this was all a terrible mistake, but another part of me couldn't shake the betrayal etched into every fiber of my being. "I need time," I said finally, my voice hoarse with emotion. "I need to figure things out." Alice nodded silently, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "I understand," she whispered. With that, I turned and left the room, leaving Alice to wrestle with her own demons in the suffocating silence of our shared space. As I wandered the halls of the lodge, my mind raced with questions and doubts. Could our marriage survive this breach of trust? Did I still love her enough to try? The night stretched on endlessly, a bleak testament to the shattered dreams and fractured promises that lay scattered in its wake. And as I finally collapsed onto the cold sheets of our bed, sleep remained elusive, chased away by the haunting specter of Alice's infidelity and the uncertain future that loomed ominously on the horizon. This chapter explores the aftermath of Jack's discovery and the initial confrontation with Alice, delving deeper into their emotional turmoil and the complexity of their unraveling relationship. It sets the stage for the next phase of their journey as they grapple with difficult decisions and painful realizations. In the days that followed our tense confrontation at the lodge, a heavy silence settled between Alice and me. We moved around each other like strangers in our own home, our interactions reduced to terse exchanges and awkward avoidance. The once warm and comforting space we had shared now felt suffocatingly cold and unfamiliar. I spent my days lost in a fog of confusion and hurt, grappling with the harsh reality of Alice's betrayal. Work became my refuge, a place where I could temporarily escape the turmoil brewing within me. Yet, no matter how busy I kept myself, thoughts of Alice and Kevin inevitably crept back into my mind, like unwelcome guests overstaying their welcome. Alice, on the other hand, seemed to alternate between moments of desperate attempts to reconnect and withdrawn introspection. She would leave apologetic notes on the kitchen counter or attempt to initiate conversation over meals, only to be met with my stoic silence or curt responses. Each attempt at reconciliation felt like a fresh wound being reopened, reminding me of the pain she had inflicted. One evening, unable to bear the suffocating atmosphere of our shared space any longer, I sought solace in a long drive through the winding mountain roads. The scenery blurred into a haze of greens and blues as I navigated the familiar paths with no destination in mind, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos of my thoughts. As I rounded a bend, my gaze fell upon a familiar sight, a trailhead marker for one of the local hiking trails. It was a path Alice and I had often traversed together in the early days of our relationship, when the promise of adventure and shared experiences had bound us closer than ever. Without a second thought, I parked the car and set out on the trail, the crunch of gravel beneath my boots a comforting rhythm against the backdrop of rustling leaves and distant birdsong. The air was crisp with the scent of pine and earth, a stark contrast to the heaviness that had settled over my heart. With each step, memories of happier times flooded my mind, the laughter we had shared, the dreams we had dared to chase together. But alongside those memories lingered the bitter taste of betrayal, a reminder that some wounds cut deeper than others. Lost in my thoughts, I barely noticed the passing of time until I reached a familiar clearing overlooking a breathtaking vista of the valley below. I sank onto a weathered log, the weight of my emotions threatening to overwhelm me. How had we come to this point? Was there any hope left for us, or had Alice's betrayal irreparably shattered the fragile trust that held our marriage together? As if in answer to my silent questions, a rustling in the underbrush drew my attention. Startled, I turned to find Alice standing a few feet away, her eyes red-rimmed and her expression raw with vulnerability. For a moment, we simply stared at each other across the expanse of silence that stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm. "I had to find you," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible above the whisper of the wind through the trees. "I can't do this anymore, Jack. I can't stand the distance between us." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken regret and longing. A part of me wanted to turn away, to shut myself off from the pain she had caused. But another part, the part that still remembered the love we had once shared, hesitated, yearning for a glimpse of the woman I had married. Slowly, tentatively, I nodded, my voice rough with emotion. "Neither can I, Alice." And in that moment, beneath the expansive sky and amidst the quiet beauty of nature, we began to confront the shattered pieces of our marriage. Whether we could rebuild what had been broken remained uncertain, but as we stood together in that hallowed place, I knew that the journey ahead would demand courage, forgiveness, and a willingness to confront the truths we had so long avoided. This chapter explores Jack's internal struggle and the beginning of a tentative reconciliation between him and Alice amidst the backdrop of nature. It sets the stage for their journey towards healing and potentially rebuilding their fractured relationship. The days following our encounter on the hiking trail marked a tentative shift in our relationship, a fragile truce forged amidst the wreckage of betrayal. Alice and I navigated our newfound closeness with cautious steps, each wary of reopening old wounds yet hopeful for the possibility of reconciliation. We began with small gestures, a shared meal, a tentative conversation about trivial matters. The air between us remained thick with unspoken apologies and lingering hurt, but beneath the surface, there flickered a glimmer of the connection we had once cherished. Alice, ever determined to bridge the gap that had widened between us, suggested couples counseling. Reluctantly, I agreed, recognizing the necessity of confronting our issues with the help of a neutral third party. Our sessions were fraught with tension and tears as we peeled back the layers of hurt and betrayal, laying bare the fractured foundation of our marriage. Yet, amidst the pain and uncertainty, moments of clarity emerged. We unearthed buried resentments and unmet needs, confronting the uncomfortable truths that had driven us apart. Alice spoke of her loneliness and the allure of Kevin's attention, while I grappled with my own insecurities and the fear of losing the woman I loved. Slowly, painstakingly, we began to rebuild trust. Brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Alice's commitment to transparency and accountability helped assuage my lingering doubts, while my willingness to forgive and heal allowed us to tentatively explore a path forward. One evening, as we sat on the porch of our lodge, watching the sun dip below the horizon in a blaze of oranges and pinks, Alice reached for my hand with a tremulous smile. "I'm sorry, Jack," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything." I squeezed her hand gently, the weight of her words echoing in the space between us. "I know," I replied softly. "I'm sorry too, Alice, for shutting you out." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she leaned into my embrace, seeking solace in the familiarity of our shared pain and determination to rebuild what had been lost. In the weeks that followed, we ventured tentatively into uncharted territory, rediscovering the simple joys of companionship and shared experiences. We hiked familiar trails, cooked meals together, and laughed over old jokes that had once defined our closeness. Yet, beneath the fragile veneer of our reconciliation, I knew that scars remained, reminders of the deep wounds that had shaped our journey. Trust, once shattered, could not be easily restored, and the specter of Alice's betrayal lingered in the corners of my mind. But with each passing day, I found myself choosing forgiveness over bitterness, hope over despair. Our love, though bruised and scarred, had weathered the storm, emerging stronger in its resilience and newfound appreciation for the fragile beauty of second chances. As we stood together beneath the starlit sky, our hands entwined and hearts laid bare, I knew that our journey was far from over. But for now, in the quiet embrace of the mountains we had once feared would tear us apart, we found solace in the promise of tomorrow and the healing power of love. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's journey towards reconciliation and the gradual rebuilding of trust in their marriage. It highlights their efforts to confront their issues and rediscover their connection amidst the aftermath of betrayal. The weeks turned into months as Alice and I navigated the delicate terrain of rebuilding our marriage. Our journey was punctuated by moments of healing and setbacks, each step forward a testament to our shared commitment to a future we had once feared lost. Couples counseling became a regular fixture in our lives, providing a safe space to explore our vulnerabilities and confront the underlying issues that had strained our relationship to the breaking point. With the guidance of our therapist, we learned to communicate more openly and empathetically, bridging the gaps that had once threatened to engulf us. Yet, despite our progress, the specter of Alice's infidelity lingered in the shadows, a silent reminder of the fragility of trust and the wounds that had yet to fully heal. I wrestled with moments of doubt and insecurity, questioning whether I could ever fully let go of the hurt she had caused. Alice, for her part, remained steadfast in her efforts to earn back my trust. She was transparent about her whereabouts, always willing to answer my questions with patience and honesty. Her remorse was palpable, etched into the lines of her face and the depths of her eyes whenever the topic of Kevin arose. One evening, as we sat together on the porch of our lodge, savoring the quiet peace of the mountain twilight, Alice broached a topic that had lingered unspoken between us for too long. "Jack," she began softly, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in hues of gold and lavender, "do you think we can ever truly move past what happened?" I took a deep breath, the weight of her question settling heavily on my shoulders. "I want to believe we can," I admitted honestly, turning to meet her eyes. "But there are still moments when the doubt creeps in, Alice. I can't pretend that everything is magically fixed." She nodded, her expression a mix of understanding and determination. "I know," she replied quietly. "And I'm sorry, Jack. I know I've put you through so much pain." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently in reassurance. "We've both been through a lot," I acknowledged, my voice softening. "But we're still here, and that has to count for something." In the silence that followed, a sense of quiet resolve settled between us, a shared acknowledgement of the rocky path we had traveled and the uncertain road that lay ahead. The mountains loomed around us, their ancient presence a reminder of the resilience required to weather life's storms. As the night deepened and the stars emerged one by one in the velvet sky, we sat together in companionable silence, finding solace in the simple act of being together. The wounds of the past remained tender, but in the quiet moments of acceptance and forgiveness, we found the courage to embrace the possibility of a new beginning. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's continued journey towards reconciliation and their efforts to confront the lingering doubts and uncertainties in their marriage. It explores their shared commitment to healing and rebuilding trust, while acknowledging the challenges and complexities they still face. As the months passed, Jack and Alice's journey through counseling continued to bring moments of clarity and renewed hope. They found themselves growing closer once again, navigating the delicate balance between healing from the past and forging a path towards their future together. With each counseling session, Jack began to feel a gradual easing of the weight that had burdened him since discovering Alice's infidelity. He found solace in their therapist's guidance, learning to express his feelings of betrayal and hurt in a constructive way. Alice, in turn, remained committed to transparency and rebuilding trust, understanding the long road ahead. Their conversations became more frequent and meaningful, delving into deeper aspects of their relationship beyond the pain of the past. They reminisced about the dreams they had once shared and discussed new aspirations for their future. Through it all, Jack gradually began to see glimpses of the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman whose laughter had once filled their home with warmth and joy. One weekend, Jack surprised Alice with a getaway to a secluded cabin nestled deep in the mountains. It was a place they had visited early in their relationship, a sanctuary of peace and solitude, far removed from the distractions of everyday life. As they settled into the cozy cabin, surrounded by towering pines and the soothing melody of a nearby stream, Jack felt a sense of calm settle over him. "I wanted us to have some time alone," Jack confessed, pouring them both a glass of wine as they sat on the cabin's porch, gazing out at the breathtaking view. Alice smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the flickering light of the setting sun. "Thank you, Jack," she murmured, reaching for his hand. "This means a lot to me." They spent the weekend hiking familiar trails and reconnecting over shared meals cooked on the cabin's rustic stove. With each step they took along the winding paths, Jack felt the walls he had erected around his heart slowly begin to crumble. He allowed himself to be vulnerable again, sharing his fears and hopes for their future with Alice. On the final evening of their getaway, as they sat by the crackling fire in the cabin's stone hearth, Jack found himself reflecting on how far they had come. He turned to Alice, his gaze softening with affection. "Alice," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I still have moments of doubt, of course, but I want you to know that I'm willing to keep working through this with you. I love you, and I want us to find our way back to each other." Tears shimmered in Alice's eyes as she reached for his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "I love you too, Jack," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "I'm so grateful for this chance to make things right." In that moment, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the mountains and the warmth of their shared embrace, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the promise of a future filled with renewed hope and the enduring strength of their love. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's journey of healing and renewal, highlighting their efforts to reconnect and rebuild their relationship amidst the backdrop of nature's tranquility. It underscores their mutual commitment to facing the challenges ahead and embracing the possibility of a brighter future together. In the wake of their mountain retreat, Jack and Alice returned home with a newfound sense of optimism and determination. They continued their journey of reconciliation with a deeper understanding of each other's vulnerabilities and a shared commitment to rebuilding their marriage. As they settled back into their routines, Jack found himself more open to Alice's efforts to reconnect. They spent evenings cooking together, sharing stories from their day, and rediscovering the simple joys that had once defined their relationship. Alice's dedication to rebuilding trust remained unwavering, and Jack felt himself gradually letting go of the resentment that had plagued him for so long. Their couples' counseling sessions continued to be a cornerstone of their progress, providing a safe space to navigate the complexities of their emotions and the challenges they faced. They explored strategies for communication and conflict resolution, learning to lean on each other for support during moments of uncertainty. One afternoon, as they walked hand in hand through a local park, Jack felt a surge of gratitude for the woman by his side. He stopped beneath a sprawling oak tree, turning to face Alice with a smile. "You know," Jack began softly, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about how far we've come." Alice nodded, her gaze gentle and understanding. "Me too," she replied, her fingers intertwining with his. "It hasn't been easy, but I'm grateful for every step we've taken together." Jack took a deep breath, his heart swelling with love and admiration for the woman who had fought so fiercely to regain his trust. "I want you to know that I believe in us, Alice," he confessed, his voice steady with conviction. "I believe in our future together." Tears shimmered in Alice's eyes as she leaned into his embrace, her gratitude palpable in the warmth of her touch. "I believe in us too, Jack," she murmured against his chest. "More than anything." In that moment, beneath the shade of the oak tree and amidst the gentle rustling of leaves, Jack and Alice found themselves reaffirming their commitment to each other. The wounds of the past had not vanished entirely, but their journey of healing had brought them closer than ever before. As they continued their walk through the park, hand in hand and hearts intertwined, Jack felt a renewed sense of hope for their future. Together they had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged stronger on the other side, a testament to the resilience of their love and the enduring power of forgiveness. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's continued progress towards rebuilding their marriage, emphasizing their growing sense of hope and commitment to each other. It highlights their mutual efforts to confront their past and embrace the possibilities of a renewed future together. As Jack and Alice continued on their journey of reconciliation, they encountered new challenges that tested their commitment and resilience. Despite their progress, the scars of Alice's betrayal lingered beneath the surface, reminding them both of the fragile nature of trust. Their couples' counseling sessions became more focused on addressing deeper issues that had contributed to the breakdown of their marriage. They explored the patterns of communication that had led them astray and delved into unresolved conflicts that had simmered beneath the surface for years. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Jack found himself grappling with a familiar sense of doubt and frustration. He sat alone in their living room, the echoes of their therapist's words still ringing in his ears. Alice had retreated to their bedroom, her own emotions raw and unsettled. Feeling restless, Jack wandered outside to their backyard, seeking solace in the cool night air. He paced along the garden path, the scent of jasmine and freshly cut grass mingling in the darkness. The stars twinkled overhead, a silent witness to the turmoil that churned within him. Lost in thought, Jack found himself replaying the events of the past year, the pain of discovery, the tumultuous journey of forgiveness, and the fragile hope they had painstakingly cultivated. He wondered if they would ever truly overcome the shadow of Alice's infidelity, or if it would continue to haunt their relationship indefinitely. A rustling sound nearby drew Jack's attention, and he turned to find Alice standing at the edge of the garden, her silhouette illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. She approached him slowly, her expression a mix of apprehension and vulnerability. "Jack," Alice began softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I know this hasn't been easy for either of us." Jack nodded, his throat tight with unspoken emotions. "No, it hasn't," he admitted, meeting her gaze with a mixture of love and exhaustion. "But I want us to keep trying, Alice. I want to believe that we can get through this." Tears welled up in Alice's eyes as she reached for his hand, her touch tentative yet determined. "I do too, Jack," she whispered, her voice wavering with emotion. "I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused you." Jack squeezed her hand gently, his heart heavy with the weight of their shared struggles. "I know you are," he replied softly, "and I believe that you're truly remorseful. But sometimes it's hard to let go of the hurt." Alice nodded, her shoulders sagging with the weight of their unspoken fears and doubts. "I understand," she murmured, leaning into his embrace. I don't want to lose you, Jack. I love you more than anything." In that moment, beneath the starlit sky and amidst the quiet beauty of their backyard sanctuary, Jack and Alice found themselves confronting the complexities of their relationship once again. They knew that their journey towards healing would not be linear, that there would be setbacks and challenges yet to come. But as they stood together in the embrace of the night, they also knew that their love was worth fighting for. With renewed determination and a shared commitment to growth, Jack and Alice embraced the uncertainty of their future, knowing that together they could weather any storm that came their way. This chapter delves into Jack and Alice's ongoing struggles and the emotional complexities they face as they confront deeper issues in their marriage. It emphasizes their resilience and commitment to overcoming obstacles together, despite the lingering effects of past betrayals. In the months that followed their emotional conversation in the backyard, Jack and Alice continued to navigate the ups and downs of their journey towards healing. Their commitment to each other remained steadfast, but the scars of betrayal still cast a shadow over their relationship. Couples counseling sessions became a regular part of their routine, providing a structured space to address lingering doubts and unresolved emotions. With the guidance of their therapist, they explored new strategies for communication and conflict resolution, learning to navigate their differences with greater empathy and understanding. Despite the challenges they faced, Jack and Alice found moments of solace in their shared experiences and renewed commitment to each other. They took long walks in the evenings, hand in hand, discussing their dreams and aspirations for the future. Slowly, they began to rebuild the foundation of trust that had been fractured by Alice's infidelity. One weekend, Jack surprised Alice with tickets to a music festival they had always wanted to attend. It was an opportunity for them to create new memories together, away from the pressures of everyday life. As they danced under the stars to their favorite songs, Jack felt a sense of joy and gratitude wash over him. "I'm glad we came," Alice murmured, her laughter mingling with the music as they swayed together in the crowd. Jack nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Me too," he replied, his voice filled with genuine happiness. "It feels good to just be here with you, Alice." As the night wore on, they found a quiet corner away from the bustling crowd, sitting side by side on a blanket beneath a canopy of twinkling lights. The air was alive with the rhythm of music and the distant hum of conversation. But in that moment, all Jack could focus on was the woman beside him, the woman who had fought so fiercely to reclaim his heart. "I want you to know," Jack began softly, turning to meet Alice's gaze, "that I'm grateful for how hard you've been working to make things right. I see the effort you're putting in, and it means a lot to me." Alice's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she reached for his hand, her touch gentle and reassuring. "Thank you, Jack," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm sorry for everything I put you through. I never want to hurt you like that again." Jack squeezed her hand affectionately, his heart swelling with love and forgiveness. "I believe you, Alice," he replied sincerely, "and I believe in us. We've come a long way." In the warmth of their shared embrace, amidst the music and laughter of the festival, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the promise of a future filled with renewed hope and the enduring strength of their love. They knew that their journey was far from over, that there would still be challenges and uncertainties to face. But together, they had rediscovered the resilience of their bond and the healing power of forgiveness. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's continued progress towards healing and rebuilding their relationship, emphasizing their efforts to create new positive experiences together while acknowledging the challenges they still face. It underscores their growing sense of hope and commitment to a future filled with renewed trust and love. As the seasons shifted and the days grew longer, Jack and Alice found themselves at a pivotal moment in their journey of reconciliation. They had navigated through the tumultuous waters of betrayal and forgiveness, weathering storms of doubt and uncertainty along the way. Now standing on the precipice of a new chapter, they confronted the challenges that lay ahead with a renewed sense of strength and determination. Their couples counseling sessions had evolved into a platform for deeper exploration of their individual needs and desires. Together with their therapist, they delved into the underlying issues that had contributed to the breakdown of their marriage, unraveling knots of miscommunication and unmet expectations. One afternoon, as they sat across from each other in their therapist's office, Jack felt a surge of gratitude for the progress they had made. Alice's commitment to transparency and accountability had helped to mend the fractures in their trust, while Jack's willingness to forgive had paved the way for their shared future. "I think we've made significant strides," their therapist remarked, her voice gentle yet firm. "But it's important to acknowledge that healing is an ongoing process. How do you both feel about where you are now?" Jack glanced at Alice, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I feel hopeful," he admitted honestly, his gaze softening with affection. We've worked hard to get here, and I believe in our ability to keep moving forward." Alice nodded, her expression mirroring Jack's sentiment. "I agree," she affirmed, her voice steady with conviction. "We've learned a lot about ourselves and each other. I'm committed to continuing this journey with Jack." Their therapist nodded in approval, her eyes kind yet discerning. "Remember to celebrate your progress," she encouraged gently. "And don't hesitate to lean on each other for support during moments of doubt." That evening, as they drove home from their counseling session, Jack reflected on the pivotal moment they had reached. He felt a renewed sense of optimism for their future, a future built on a foundation of hard-earned trust, open communication, and unwavering love. Pulling into their driveway, Jack turned to Alice with a smile. "I'm proud of us," he murmured, reaching for her hand. "We've come a long way." Alice squeezed his hand affectionately, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears of gratitude. "We have," she agreed softly, "and I'm grateful for every moment we've shared. In that moment, beneath the canopy of stars and the quiet hum of their neighborhood." Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the promise of a future filled with renewed hope and endless possibilities. They knew that their journey was far from over, that there would still be challenges to face and obstacles to overcome. But together, they had found their way back to each other, stronger and more resilient than ever before. This chapter emphasizes Jack and Alice's reflection on their progress and their determination to continue moving forward in their journey of healing and reconciliation. It highlights their growing optimism and commitment to a future built on trust, communication, and mutual support. With each passing day, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing life with a newfound sense of joy and gratitude. Their journey through counseling had provided them with tools to navigate challenges and deepen their understanding of each other. Together, they began to rediscover the simple pleasures that had once brought them closer together. They embarked on weekend adventures, hiking trails they had never explored, picnicking by serene lakes, and visiting quaint towns nestled in the countryside. These moments allowed them to reconnect with nature and with each other, creating cherished memories that strengthened their bond. One sunny Saturday morning, Jack surprised Alice with a spontaneous road trip to a nearby beach town. They drove with the windows down, music playing softly in the background, sharing laughter and conversation along the way. As they arrived at the coastal town, they strolled hand in hand along the boardwalk, soaking in the salty breeze and the vibrant sights around them. "This reminds me of when we first started dating," Alice remarked, her smile bright as she glanced at Jack. Jack nodded, a fond smile on his lips. "Yeah, those were good times," he agreed, squeezing her hand gently. "I'm glad we're creating new memories like this." They stopped at a seafood shack for lunch, savoring fresh fish tacos and clam chowder while seated at a picnic table overlooking the ocean. The sound of seagulls echoed overhead, and waves lapped gently against the shore, a soothing backdrop to their intimate conversation. "I never want to take moments like this for granted," Alice confessed softly, her gaze lingering on Jack's face. "I'm grateful for every second we spend together." Jack reached across the table to brush a strand of hair from her face, his touch tender. "Me too," he murmured, his voice filled with sincerity. "I cherish every moment with you, Alice." As the day drew to a close, they walked barefoot along the beach, the sand warm beneath their feet. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, casting a magical glow over the horizon. Hand in hand, Jack and Alice paused to watch the sun sink below the waves, a silent testament to the beauty of their renewed love and shared journey. "I love you, Jack," Alice whispered, her voice a gentle breeze in the quiet evening air. Jack turned to her, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "And I love you, Alice," he replied softly, pulling her close into his embrace. In that moment, as the last rays of sunlight disappeared over the horizon, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the promise of a future filled with endless possibilities and the enduring joy of their rediscovered love. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's journey of rediscovery and their efforts to create new memories together. It highlights their growing sense of appreciation for each other and their commitment to cherishing moments of happiness and connection. As Jack and Alice continued to build upon their renewed bond, they encountered unexpected challenges that tested their resilience and commitment. The progress they had made in counseling and through shared experiences had fortified their relationship, but there were still hurdles to overcome. One evening, as they sat together in their cozy living room, Alice broached a topic that had been weighing on her mind. "Jack," she began softly, her eyes searching his face for understanding. "I've been thinking about our future a lot lately." Jack nodded, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "Me too," he replied, his voice gentle yet curious. "What are you thinking?" Alice took a deep breath, her fingers tracing absent-minded patterns on the arm of the couch. "I know we've come a long way," she started carefully, "but I can't shake this feeling of uncertainty about where we're headed." Jack furrowed his brow, his heart sinking with the weight of her words. "Are you having doubts?" he asked cautiously, fearing the worst. Alice shook her head quickly, her eyes wide with sincerity. "No, not doubts about us," she clarified earnestly, "but about our future goals, our dreams. I want to make sure we're on the same page." Jack exhaled slowly, relieved yet troubled by Alice's concerns. "I understand," he replied softly, reaching for her hand. "It's important to talk about these things. What are you envisioning for our future?" They spent hours that evening discussing their individual aspirations and dreams for the future. Alice's desire to pursue a new career path that aligned with her passions, Jack's hopes for starting a family someday. They shared fears and uncertainties, but also reaffirmed their commitment to supporting each other's growth and ambitions. In the weeks that followed, Jack and Alice made a conscious effort to communicate more openly about their goals and aspirations. They set aside time for weekly check-ins, where they discussed progress and challenges, celebrating victories and offering support during setbacks. Their conversations deepened their understanding of each other's hopes and fears, strengthening their connection and fostering a sense of unity in their shared journey. They sought guidance from their therapist when needed, drawing on the tools and strategies they had learned to navigate difficult conversations with empathy and respect. One evening, as they sat together on their porch under a canopy of stars, Jack turned to Alice with a smile. "I'm proud of how far we've come," he confessed, his voice filled with admiration. "Despite the challenges, we're growing stronger together." Alice leaned into his embrace, her heart swelling with gratitude and love. "Me too," she murmured against his chest. "I believe in us, Jack. I believe in our future." In that moment, as they gazed at the twinkling stars above, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the uncertainties of their future with renewed hope and unwavering faith in their love. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's journey of navigating new challenges in their relationship, emphasizing their commitment to open communication and mutual support as they confront uncertainties about their future. Together, as Jack and Alice continued to navigate their journey of healing and growth, they found themselves celebrating significant milestones that marked their progress and deepened their connection. Each milestone became a symbol of their resilience and determination to build a future together. One crisp autumn morning, Jack surprised Alice with breakfast in bed, a simple gesture of appreciation for her unwavering support and love. He prepared her favorite pancakes topped with fresh berries and brewed a pot of strong coffee, setting everything on a tray adorned with a single red rose. Alice's eyes sparkled with surprise and gratitude as Jack presented the tray to her. "Jack, this is so sweet," she exclaimed, her voice filled with warmth as she reached out to squeeze his hand. "I wanted to do something special for you," Jack replied softly, his heart swelling with affection. "To celebrate how far we've come." They spent the morning together, lingering over breakfast and reminiscing about their journey. They laughed about the early days of their relationship, recalling the innocence and excitement they had shared. They also reflected on the challenges they had faced, the pain of betrayal, the difficult conversations, and the moments of doubt that had tested their resolve. Later that day, Jack surprised Alice again by planning a spontaneous day trip to a nearby vineyard. They spent the afternoon sampling different wines, strolling through rows of grapevines, and enjoying a picnic lunch overlooking rolling hills and valleys. As they sat together on a blanket spread out under the shade of a large oak tree, Jack turned to Alice with a soft smile. "I'm so glad we're here," he murmured, his eyes filled with affection. "Today feels like a celebration of us." Alice nodded, her heart full as she leaned into his embrace. "It does," she agreed softly, her fingers intertwined with his. "I never want to take moments like this for granted." They watched the sunset together, the sky painted in hues of pink and gold, casting a warm glow over the landscape. In the quiet beauty of the vineyard, Jack and Alice found themselves embracing the joy of the present moment and the promise of a future filled with love, growth, and endless possibilities. "I love you, Jack," Alice whispered, her voice a gentle breeze in the evening air. Jack turned to her, his gaze tender and filled with love. "And I love you, Alice," he replied sincerely, pressing a kiss to her forehead. In that moment, as the last rays of sunlight faded into twilight, Jack and Alice knew that their journey together was far from over. But they also knew that with each milestone they celebrated, they were building a foundation of love and resilience that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. This chapter focuses on Jack and Alice's celebration of milestones in their relationship, emphasizing their appreciation for each other and their journey of healing and growth. It highlights their commitment to cherishing moments of joy and connection as they continue to build a future together. Jack and Alice stood hand in hand on the shore of a tranquil lake, the gentle lapping of water against the shore providing a soothing backdrop to their conversation. They had come a long way since the tumultuous days of Alice's infidelity, and now, as they looked towards the future, they found themselves filled with hope and anticipation. "I can't believe how far we've come," Alice murmured, her voice soft with emotion as she glanced at Jack. Jack smiled warmly, his heart swelling with love for the woman who had fought so hard to regain his trust. "It hasn't been easy," he admitted honestly, "but I'm grateful for every step we've taken together." They had spent the past year rebuilding their relationship brick by brick, through tearful conversations, heartfelt apologies, and moments of laughter and joy. Their commitment to each other had never wavered, even in the face of doubts and uncertainties. "I want us to keep growing together," Jack continued, his gaze fixed on the horizon, "to keep exploring new adventures and creating memories." Alice nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Me too," she agreed softly, her fingers tightening around Jack's. "I believe in our future, Jack. I believe in us." As they walked along the lake shore, Jack and Alice discussed their dreams for the years ahead. Traveling to new destinations, pursuing career aspirations, and eventually starting a family. They shared hopes for continued growth and deepening their connection, knowing that their journey together was far from over. Their therapist had become a trusted guide throughout their journey, offering insights and tools to navigate the complexities of their relationship. They continued to attend counseling sessions periodically, using the space to reflect on their progress and address any lingering concerns. Back home that evening, Jack and Alice sat together on their porch, savoring the quiet moments of togetherness. The stars twinkled overhead, a silent witness to the love and resilience that had carried them through their darkest days. "I love you, Alice," Jack whispered, breaking the peaceful silence that surrounded them. "I love you too, Jack," Alice replied, her voice filled with certainty and warmth. In that moment, as they embraced the promise of their shared future, Jack and Alice knew that their love was stronger than ever. Together they had weathered the storms of betrayal and doubt, emerging on the other side with a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. As they looked towards the horizon, where the sun was beginning to set in a blaze of golden hues, Jack and Alice knew that their journey together was just beginning. With hearts full of hope and hands tightly intertwined, they walked into the future, ready to face whatever challenges and joys lay ahead, knowing that they would face them together. This chapter concludes Jack and Alice's journey of reconciliation, with a focus on their renewed hope and commitment to each other. It emphasizes their readiness to embrace the future and their belief in the strength of their love as they move forward together.